invite Niyyānika, if you're up, please.
As Ajahn Ritti was saying, a lot of work, right? And you've raised the funds, but now the work begins. When I was visiting in Thailand, Ajahn Gunha would say, happy will you work, happy while working. And the practice isn't going to start when the monastery is built, and the practice isn't going to start when you have that beautiful visionary hall. The practice is right here, right now, and the practice is in each of those steps that were just described. So the happiness of that is in the practice. So you're moving at the pace of practice, and you're happy in the practice. So don't think you start practicing when the monastery is built. Just as if you've been practicing in the triple gym next door. The triple gem is right here. It is the refuge. So you don't go to refuge in the finished monastery. You do it together. And Ajahn Mahapasurt from down in the Bay Area, when the bhikkhunis were first starting out, his advice was, do your best and let it go. Let it go and do your best. So as you're happy while you work, as you're practicing, do your best and let it go. It won't always be easy. There will be things, because I don't think you're all arahants. I think you're on the way. You're on the way. But even with arahants, there's still, personalities that meet each other. And so you will meet each other and you will meet yourself as you build this monastery. Happy as you work, do your best and let it go. Let it go and do your best. And that will be practicing now, practicing here, practicing each step of the way. Don't wait till the monastery is built, and move at the pace of practice.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Ayya. Venerable Pandit.
Three minutes. I'll do my best. Okay, hi everyone. I've come here from Thailand, been ordained. Next month will be 30 years since I ordained. Which means these guys are terrified of me. They're worrying that they're doing the right thing. But I'm coming from Thailand, I have the opposite feeling. I'm feeling trepidatious in case you see all my bad habits. So I wanted to mention this morning we were talking about our favorite monks from the suttas, and I nominated Anuruddha. And I want to tell you a very quick story about Anuruddha. But first, I just want to mention that the reason that we have stories, if we talk about philosophy, or say Four Noble Truths, or something like that, it's kind of hard to remember it, to bear it in mind and to relate to it. But a story is something that goes into the head, it goes into the heart, and it's something that we remember a principle by means of the story. That's why all the great traditions around the world have always used stories as a means to propagate the teaching. So I'll tell you this story, but the story is not really about Anuruddha. The story is a principle that you can keep in your mind and relate to. If you know psychology, this would be a heuristic or a shortcut to our behavior in the world. So this story relates to the time when the Buddha had gone off, become enlightened, and he'd gone back to his home village, home city, town. And all of his family had found out that he was now living in the forest as a monk, and he's kind of still their boss. So they get together and to talk amongst themselves, and they decide, okay, some of us are going to have to go off into the forest to stay with the Buddha, stay with Siddhartha Gautama. And some of us can stay here and look after the kingdom. So Anuruddha, the Buddha's cousin, was one of these monks in the meeting. And he said, guys, I have this excellent idea. You lot can go into the forest, practice renunciation, celibacy, shave your head, living on alms food. And I'll stay here and look after the kingdom. So one of the monks said to Anuruddha, he seemed very pleased with his idea. One of the monks said to him, and what will you do being in charge of the kingdom? He said, well, I'll get the harvest in. As soon as we got the harvest in, I'm set, I'll be happy. And then they said to him, what will you do after the harvest has been brought in? He said, well, then I suppose we have to get ready for winter. Put all the grain in storage, salt all the meats and vegetables, whatever. He said, but after that, then I'm done and I can relax and be in charge of the kingdom. And then they said to him, well, what do you do after that? He said, well, I suppose in spring we have to go out and we'll plow the land and get all the land ready for planting and prepare the seeds and go out and plant all the crops. He said, but then, it'd be all right. I'll be in charge of the kingdom. You know what's coming next, right? He said, what do you do after planting the seeds? Well, then we've got to nurture the rice. We've got to tend the rice as it comes up. We've got to guard it against animals, guard it against insects, make sure it has enough water, enough sun. And he said, and then I'll be done. We'll be sorted, and I can be happy looking after the kingdom. So then what did they say next to him? Then what will you do? And he said, I've got this excellent idea. You guys can look after the kingdom. I'm going to the forest to become a monk with the Buddha. And that's what he did. And he became foremost for psychic powers, especially psychic vision. So the point of this story is to remember the relentlessness of living in the world. Every bill that you pay, you have to pay another bill after it. Every meal that you feed to your child, you're going to have to feed them another meal. Every problem that you solve, you're going to have to solve another problem. The relentlessness of life is just built into the nature of living. And most people don't pay attention to this. When you pay attention to this relentlessness of life, it starts to give you the urge to go and practice, to find something that does last, to find something that is real, is permanent, is happiness. So for you guys here, you all have lives and jobs and families, but you will have the opportunity to go to the forest like Anuruddha had the opportunity. So as this land becomes developed, I hope you all take the opportunity to go and remember the practice. Remember there is something other than the relentless nature of being in the world. So keep this story. The story is not about Anuruddha. The story is about you. Hold the story in your mind and it reminds you, okay, there is something other that I have to do, this practice. Okay, I'll leave that with you.
Our Venerable Ajahn Cunda.
Okay. So it was supposed to be 4 minutes yesterday, I think, but then we were told 3 minutes. So I think we're about down to 2. So my talk is half over. So I'll be quick here, but I was just thinking about maybe a couple of statements that you can take with you. And one of the things is that the monastery is never finished. So just kind of try to think of that in your mind as like, when is it going to be finished? When it's going to be done? When are we going to have kutis finished? When are they going to get up? When's the other parcel going to get purchased? You know, it's all this kind of ongoing nature of when, and then I'll feel settled. But as Bhante was just talking here, there's no settling of the mind based on the ending of things, because there's only one ending, and that's Nibbana. So if you're asking, you know, when is the monastery going to be finished, you know, the answer is never, because then, of course, when we build something, then we have to maintain it. It falls apart, rebuild it again. And yet when Lumpur Liam was asked in the midst of building, I think, 600 toilets and preparing for Lumpur Cha's funeral, some man was concerned and said, well, how can you even think about this? I mean, when is it going to get done? How can you? It's just this overwhelming looking at this. And many of you have probably heard this, and Lumpur Liam just said, well, I finish it every day. So keeping those two things in mind, you know, it's never going to be finished, but I finish it every day. It really points to a deeper understanding of the mind, that what we're thinking of as finishing in the worldly existence, it has no finish, right? Samsara has no end. And we don't have to be distraught about that, because that's the truth of what the Buddha taught. He said, you know, there is suffering. We don't need to argue about it. This is a noble truth. There is this ongoing nature. And yet we do have a sense spiritually, for following our spiritual life, that we can end it. We can end it every day. And so that's something just to bring up in one's mind whenever it's sort of there. You know, like, right, I kind of realized I wasn't keeping track of time, and I said, I got to go to the bathroom. We're about to start. So I did that. I said, oh, geez, I didn't floss my teeth. Oh, geez, that's going to be uncomfortable. And then, you know, let it go. We don't have to kind of keep finishing something or finding something that we'll be pleased about once we know, like, okay, I'm comfortable now. Because there's never going to really be a worldly comfort. It's just the comfort, the understanding, the clarity in our own minds. So as just something you can take with you, that I finish it every day. One of the chants that we bring up, and comes from a sutta, is translated as, the non-constructing mind has come to craving's end. The non-constructing mind has come to craving's end. So we say this to ourselves, you know, several times a day. I think we can see how settled that can become. You know, if we stop creating things all the time, whatever it is, creating ourselves, creating how we should be in front of others, creating the monastery and when it's going to get finished, and we just allow that to end, that constructing mind, then we see that craving, it has an end too. And that's where we can find true peace. I'll leave it for some reflection.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay. Now we'll pass it to Bhante Rāhula.
As I was coming down the stairs, somebody asked me, how do you feel, Bhante? And I was, so as I was sitting here, I started recollecting on the question that just was made here, coming down. So I was thinking, how do I feel? But instead of saying, how do I feel, I can imagine, how do we feel as monastics, as the lay community together? And one of the things that is really resonating in the heart is that we are here actually, and the feeling that we get is based on that, is that we all share a single love. We are all here because of the Dhamma, isn't it? So the Dhamma touched our life at some point or another, and it brought us here, and we feel the inspiration to be learning, exploring, supporting. Then as I was sitting here, and then we did the chants, no, appreciation. How do I feel? I ask myself. Now you will see how do I feel. I'm sitting here, monastics on this side, female monastics on this side, our dear sisters and brothers together. And as I closed the eyes, I was hearing both of the sides in stereo, together chanting. And also you when we do the sadhu. So I was thinking, how do I feel hearing the four communities together? And then the question just increased. How do our teachers will feel if they see this, that people 2,500 or more years after, by their own accord and voluntarily, nobody forced us to be here. And we love the Dhamma, and we took decisions to leave some of our lay activities, in the case of the monastics, to dedicate full time. And the battery, the Sangha battery, as I mentioned to some, is like recharging. I live alone in Mexico. I'm the only monk in the monastery in the forest. And when would I feel the joy of seeing monks and nuns that I appreciate, respect, and love dearly? How do we feel? So, well, I haven't find a definite answer to that, but really thinking onto how our teachers will feel by seeing the four communities together. Imagine if the Buddha, which left the four of them, he said the only way that the Dhamma and the Sasana will be able to continue for future generations, it will be when what is happening here today is happening, when the four communities are supporting one another. We all take our responsibility and role. We do what we need to do to take care of it. The lay community, male and female monastic community doing our job. So that's how I feel. And then at the end, I was thinking, how would I feel? So as you know, in this life, I didn't have any kids. So... and the possibilities are waning as look forward. But how do I feel? I was looking when you came and offered to my dear teachers here, and we are all respecting the Dhamma, sharing that love. I really thought I imagine what a father or a mother will do. Who is father or mother here? Can you raise your hand? Many of you. I imagine that if you are on the street and suddenly you see somebody else be kind to your child, they are giving or helping your child, as a father or as a mother, I only can imagine how would you feel somebody being kind to your own child or somebody or something that you love dearly. When I see all the generosity, the support, and what is happening for the monastery, I think I have this fatherly love, like I'm looking at somebody, all of us in our own respective ways, loving something that I love so much. So I really thank you very much for all the support. And now it's in our hands. I feel very joyful to see yesterday the land, to see my brothers putting us together. And now it's in our hands for the next generation, and the joy is just coming to the heart, strength and confidence, because we are together, and in the name of all of our teachers and the Buddha, may we continue harmoniously. I had a secret here. May the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha continue standing for future generations, our children, our grandchildren, and all evolving. Ding, ding. Let's ring all the bells in the universe. 1, 2, 3, everybody. Ding, 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 ding. And this last gift was just like, imagine, this can encompass the whole thing. A Bodhi tree from Mahabodhi, just here in America. I want to be there, and I will let you know how I managed to bring it to Mexico. But let you know, thank you very much, Bhantes and everybody. I love you.
Bhante's like the lighthouse. He just circles around the floodlight. All right. And for our last talk, we'll have Venerable Maechee Paññāsiri give some Dhamma reflections.
After that very exciting talk, I don't know what to say. I really feel intimidated, Bhante Rāhula, and I have to need a few seconds to calm down and get my guts back. Yeah, I feel very blessed and fortunate to be here finally. And then I watched the previous Bapa on the YouTube channel. I feel so blessed and to be here and to be everybody in person. I was very grateful to have a very short tour around that land in a rainy day. And I was told that raining day like that and moody day like that actually takes 8 months of the year in Seattle. And that moment I feel very privileged because I think, great, that moment I live like a local. But you know, sometimes we will say it's easier to live in one day, but how about that applies 8 months in our life and in a year? I couldn't exactly remember the look of the land, or even like Ajahn Nisapana was very excited talking about the great energy. I certainly felt that great energy there, but what remains in my mind and my heart is the people, that little group. It was a raining day, everybody tried to take care of each other and then make sure no one's get too wet. And I just feel it is not the land itself, but it is the people that make the land. Without the people, without kindness, without cultivation of the mind, or even the willingness, the land is just a normal piece of land. It's just like any other forest land. I always remember the question that usually, very often people ask, what's the meaning of life? I think Venerable Ajahn Jayasaro, he had a very interesting way to answer that question. He said, instead of ask that question, he said, I have a better question for all of you. And we ask, what can we do to bring meaning to our life? So the peace on this land and the monastery on this land, the monastery is our hope, it's our wish, it's our future. But the monastery is also a reflection, a mirror for us to see what's arising, what's the mental state arising in this present moment when we try to fulfill this object, this project. It will arise a lot of wholesome mental states. It would also arise a lot of unwholesome mental states. So when we bring this monastery together, we also bring the inner monastery together within our mind to see what's arising. When we move one break into the land, we'll see what's arising, what are we cultivating in our mind, what we can put on this land, but meanwhile, what we can cultivate in our mind. And they're parallel. Just like meditation and daily life, they're parallel. So if you are a very senior meditator, spend more time helping the land. And if you are having a very busy duty to do, I would suggest you to go visit the land more often and try to meditate on that land. And we find good balance while we're doing the off-cushion and on-the-cushion practice together. I wish that physical monastery to be built in the near future on this land, but my bigger wish is to see the inner monastery that's being completed in every human's mind. Thank you so much.
Sadhu, sadhu.